Her small fingers trembled as she tugged the frayed sleeve down to hide the bruises. 6-year-old Emma Parker, orphaned and forgotten, living a nightmare behind the perfect suburban facade of her uncle's home. No one notices. No one questions. Until tonight. Through sheets of autumn rain, Alexander Blackwood, billionaire CEO with his own buried ghosts, witnesses something he cannot ignore: a child running terrified through the darkness, a man's rage echoing through the street, the unmistakable sound of a belt cutting through air. One decision changes everything. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," the man snarls at Alexander. He doesn't yet realize the irony of his words. Because when a man who's built an empire from nothing sets his mind to saving one broken child, he'll burn the world down to keep his promise. Some wounds run deeper than flesh. Some battles are worth any cost. Miss Carter watches Emma from across the classroom, concern deepening the lines around her eyes. The child sits alone, shoulders hunched as if perpetually bracing for impact. Today marks the third consecutive day she's worn the same unwashed uniform despite the school's strict policy. The cafeteria staff reported she hasn't touched her lunch all week. Emma's pencil moves mechanically across her math worksheet, her gaze never lifting from the paper. When the classroom grows suddenly quiet during a transition, Miss Carter catches the soft rumble of the child's stomach. Hunger. Again. "Emma, could you stay after class for just a moment?" Miss Carter keeps her voice gentle when the final bell rings. The other children rush for freedom, but Emma remains frozen, terror flashing across her face before she schools her features into practiced blankness. "I'm not in trouble." Her voice is barely audible. "No, sweetheart. I just wanted to check in." Emma's slender fingers pull nervously at her sleeve, but not before Miss Carter glimpses the ugly purple finger marks wrapping around her wrist. Marks made by an adult hand. "My uncle says I have to come straight home," Emma whispers. "He gets mad when I'm late." "Those are interesting bruises you have." Miss Carter kneels to eye level, trying to project calm while her heart hammers. "Want to tell me how you got them?" "I fell." The response comes too quickly, rehearsed. "I'm really clumsy." When Emma shifts in her chair, her threadbare sweater rides up, revealing older marks along her ribs, yellowing bruises in various stages of healing. She quickly tugs the fabric down, eyes darting to the door. "Your parents would want you to be safe, Emma." The mention of her parents triggers something. Emma's composure cracks, just for a second. "My parents are dead." Her voice wavers. "The fire took them. Uncle Frank says I'm lucky he took me in, because nobody wants a burden." Miss Carter feels a coldness spread through her chest. "You're not a burden, Emma. I have to go." Emma stands abruptly, her backpack catching on the chair and spilling its meager contents. A notebook falls open, and Miss Carter glimpses dark, troubling drawings, shadowy figures looming over a small stick figure, angry slashes of black crayon pressing so hard they've torn through the paper. Emma snatches it away, her entire body trembling now. "Please don't tell. Please. He'll know I talked." Through the classroom window, Miss Carter watches Emma cross the schoolyard. The child steps slow as she approaches a dented pickup truck idling at the curb. A heavy-set man steps out, his face contorting when he spots the teacher watching. "What took you so long?" His voice carries across the emptying schoolyard. "I'm sorry, Uncle Frank." The teacher wanted. "Get in the damn truck." He cuts her off, shoving her roughly toward the passenger door. As the truck pulls away, Miss Carter grips her phone tightly. She's reported her suspicions twice before. Both times, Child Protective Services found insufficient evidence after Frank Parker, respected local contractor, church deacon, and the child's legal guardian, presented himself as the grieving relative who'd selflessly taken in his orphaned niece. Tonight, she'll try again. Because something in Emma's eyes tells her they're running out of time. Alexander Blackwood's fingers drum against his steering wheel, his Bentley idling at a red light in a neighborhood far from his usual circles. Rain hammers the windshield, the wipers barely keeping pace. Today's board meeting had been contentious. His announcement to redirect 30% of Blackwood Enterprises' profits toward affordable housing initiatives had ruffled precisely the feathers he'd expected. "You're not a charity, Alex," his CFO had argued. "You're running a Fortune 500 company." The light turns green, but he barely notices, lost in thought. 3 years since Catherine's death, and sometimes he still reaches for her in his empty bed. His late wife had always been his moral compass, the one who reminded him that wealth without purpose was just hoarded opportunity. A sudden movement catches his eye, a small figure darting across a rain-soaked lawn, illuminated briefly in his headlights. A child. A girl, running as if her life depends on it, her soaked clothes clinging to a painfully thin frame. Behind her, a screen door bangs open. A man charges into the rain, face twisted with rage. "You get back here right now." The man's bellow carries through the storm. Alexander's foot eases off the accelerator as he watches the scene unfold, uncomfortable heat building in his chest. The man catches the child by her arm, yanking her backward with such force that she stumbles to her knees on the wet grass. "Please, Uncle Frank." Her small voice cuts through the drumming rain. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't put food back in my pantry." The man Frank yanks a belt from his waist. "Stealing from me after everything I've done for you." The first strike of leather against the child's back propels Alexander from his car before conscious thought can form. Rain soaks through his $3,000 suit in seconds as he strides across the lawn. "Hey." His voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. "Take your hands off her." Frank turns, momentarily startled. The girl remains hunched on the grass, trembling. Up close, Alexander sees she can't be more than 6 or 7. "Mind your own business, rich boy." Frank's eyes narrow, taking in the expensive car, the tailored suit now plastered to Alexander's frame. "This is family business. Beating a child is nobody's family business." Alexander steps closer, his 6'3" frame towering over the shorter man. "Let her go. You have no idea who you're dealing with," Frank snarls, but Alexander notices how his eyes dart to the nearby houses, where porch lights are beginning to flick on, curtains twitching aside. "I think I do." Alexander's voice turns dangerously soft. "I'm dealing with a coward who feels powerful hurting someone who can't fight back." Frank releases the girl's arm, taking a step toward Alexander. "You self-righteous prick. She's my responsibility. The law says I can discipline my kid however I see fit." Alexander's gaze shifts to the child. Her eyes meet his wide, brown, and carrying a resignation no child should know. Something in that look stops his breath. It's the same expression he'd seen in Catherine's eyes when the doctors delivered her terminal diagnosis. The look of someone who stopped believing in rescue. "What's your name?" he asks her gently. She glances fearfully at her uncle before whispering, "Emma." "Get back in the house, Emma." Frank's voice drops to something more menacing. Alexander reaches slowly into his pocket and retrieves his phone. I'm calling the police. For what? Ask anyone around here. I took her in when nobody wanted her. Her own parents didn't want her enough to get out of that fire. Frank's words are intended to wound, and Alexander sees them hit their mark as Emma flinches. Go ahead, Frank continues. Call them. You think they'll listen to you over me? I coach Little League with the chief's son. Alexander's finger hovers over the emergency call button, the rain streaming down his face, doubt creeping in. He's seen enough of the world to know systems don't always protect those they're designed to serve. In that hesitation, Emma speaks, her voice so quiet he almost misses it. Please don't leave. 3 simple words that change everything. Morning light filters through the blinds of Alexander's downtown penthouse as he stares at the business card in his hand. Detective Maria Suarez, Special Victims Unit. Mr. Blackwood. His assistant's voice comes through the intercom. Your 9 o'clock is here. Send her in, Diane. Detective Suarez isn't what he expected, younger, with intelligent eyes that miss nothing as she takes in the pristine office with its floor-to-ceiling views of the city Alexander's family helped build. Appreciate you making time. She settles into the chair across from him. Not every day I get calls from CEOs about suspected child abuse. I know what I saw. Alexander pushes a folder across his desk, the preliminary information his security team gathered overnight on Frank Parker. He was beating her in plain sight. And when officers responded, she was cleaned up, wearing long sleeves. Parker claimed she fell off her bike. Suarez nods, unsurprised. Classic pattern. Any visible bruising? Nothing the officers could legally demand to see. The frustration in his voice is palpable. They said without clear evidence or the child's testimony, their hands were tied. Unfortunately accurate. She flips through the folder. Parker took custody after the parents died in a house fire 2 years ago. No priors, gainfully employed, active in his church. She raises an eyebrow. On paper, he's a saint. That saint was using a belt on a 6-year-old. Alexander stands, moving to the window. I'm not imagining this, detective. I believe you saw something concerning. Her tone is measured. But the system requires evidence. Her teacher has filed reports, but they've been inconclusive. These cases are complicated. So we do nothing. He turns, anger flashing in his eyes. I didn't say that. She meets his gaze steadily. I'm saying we need to be smart. Build a case that won't fall apart. No shortcuts, even for billionaires. The unspoken admonishment lands. Alexander's jaw tightens. I have resources. How do we use them? Carefully. She stands. My partner's reaching out to the school today. Meanwhile, think about this from Parker's perspective. You're a high-profile stranger who confronted him publicly. He'll be on guard. Alexander's phone buzzes, an email from his investigative team with the first deep background report on Frank Parker. What he reads makes his blood run cold. Look at this. He hands Suarez his phone. Parker's taken in 3 other children over the past decade after family tragedies. All 3 were eventually removed from his care after hospitalization for accidents. Suarez scrolls through the report, her expression hardening. This changes things. I'll get warrants for the previous case files. There's more. Alexander pulls up another document. There's a significant insurance policy on Emma. Her parents named her as beneficiary, with Parker as trustee until she's 18. How much? 2 million. And he's burned through nearly half already on expenses related to her care. Suarez is silent for a moment. Financial motive, history of similar behavior patterns, this helps. But we still need direct evidence of current abuse. What about her teachers? Medical records? Working on it? Parker's careful takes her to different urgent care facilities, never the ER. Alexander's intercom buzzes again. Mr. Blackwood. Miss Reeves from Social Services is on line 2 regarding yesterday's incident. Suarez rises. That's my cue. Mr. Blackwood. Alexander. Alexander. I understand your concern, but please, no heroics. Men like Parker are dangerous when cornered. After she leaves, Alexander stares at the city below, at the perfect geometric patterns of streets and building systems designed to function in orderly ways. But he knows better than most how those systems fail the vulnerable. His assistant slips in quietly. Your 10:30 merger meeting is waiting. Cancel it. He doesn't turn from the window. Cancel everything today. Sir. And get me everything you can find on Emma Parker's parents and the fire that killed them. Something doesn't add up. Rain returns by evening, drumming against the windows of Alexander's study as he sorts through documents spread across his desk. Each paper represents another piece of Emma Parker's fractured life, school records showing steadily declining performance, medical reports with inconsistent explanations for injuries, insurance documents with Frank Parker's signature. His security chief, Jackson, enters with a fresh stack of files. You're not going to like this, boss. Alexander looks up, exhaustion evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. What did you find? The fire investigation. Jackson places a thumb drive on the desk. I had to call in favors with the fire marshal's office to get the unredacted report. The digital files reveal what the official record obscured. Investigators had initially flagged the Parker house fire as suspicious. Accelerant patterns. Point of origin at both exits. The parents' Emma's father was Frank's half-brother, found in their bedroom, overcome by smoke, unable to reach their daughter who had somehow escaped her second-floor room. The lead investigator was replaced mid-investigation, Jackson notes, pointing to a personnel change form. His replacement ruled it accidental within 48 hours. Alexander rubs his temples. Tell me we can prove something. That's where it gets interesting. Jackson slides over a bank statement. The replacement investigator deposited $10,000 cash the day after filing his report. No explanation for the source. Alexander's phone rings. Detective Suarez. He puts her on speaker. We've got a problem, she says without preamble. Emma didn't show up for school today. Parker claimed she had a stomach bug, but her teacher is adamant that Emma mentioned a field trip yesterday that she was excited about. He's isolating her. Alexander feels cold dread settling in his stomach. What's our timeline here? Judge Monroe denied our emergency removal request, said the evidence was still circumstantial. We need something concrete or testimony from Emma herself. Alexander stares at the fire report, pieces clicking together with terrible clarity. What if this goes beyond abuse? What if Parker had something to do with her parents' death? Silence stretches between them. Finally, Suarez sighs. That would explain a lot. But proving it? I might have something. He outlines what Jackson discovered. This changes the equation. Her voice sharpens. If Parker thinks we're looking at the fire, not just the abuse. Emma becomes a liability, Alexander finishes. She might remember something from that night. I'll request a welfare check based on school absence. It's thin, but it's something. After hanging up, Alexander stands at his window, watching rain trace patterns on the glass. Lightning flashes, briefly illuminating his reflection, haggard, determined, haunted by ghosts not entirely his own. Jackson hovers at the door. There's something else. Alexander turns. What? Parker made a call this afternoon to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Paid 6 months in advance on a new unit. Cash. He's preparing to run. Alexander grabs his coat. Where is he now? GPS on his truck shows he's at home. And Emma? Jackson's expression darkens. That's the thing. According to our surveillance, Parker left the house alone 3 hours ago, was gone for 40 minutes, then returned. No sign of Emma. The implications land like a physical blow. Alexander is moving before conscious thought forms, grabbing his keys from the desk. Sir, the police. Will take too long. Alexander's voice carries an edge his employees rarely hear. Call Suarez. Tell her everything. I'm going to Parker's house. Boss, that's not. Catherine died because people followed proper channels while her cancer spread. Alexander cuts him off, grief and rage intertwining. I watched procedures and protocols fail her for 18 months. I won't watch them fail Emma. Outside, the storm has intensified, rain coming down in sheets. Alexander drives through streets emptying of sensible people seeking shelter, his mind racing through scenarios, each worse than the last. As he turns onto Parker's Street, his headlights catch a figure staggering from the house. Frank Parker, carrying something wrapped in a tarp to his truck. Alexander kills his lights, heart hammering against his ribs. Every instinct screams that he's witnessing something monstrous. Alexander parks 2 houses down, rain pounding his windshield as he watches Parker struggle with his burden. The tarp slips, revealing a corner of what looks like a steamer trunk, old, heavy, brass-cornered. Large enough for a small child. His hand shakes as he dials Suarez's number. Voicemail. He tries dispatch. 911, what's your emergency? This is Alexander Blackwood. I need to report. Through sheets of rain, he sees Parker slam his truck's tailgate, securing the trunk. A child abduction in progress. 1482 Maple Street. The suspect is loading what may be a child into a vehicle. Officers are dispatched, sir. Please remain at a safe distance. Alexander ends the call as Parker climbs into his truck. If he drives away now, what are the chances they'll find Emma in time? Police response in this neighborhood averages 8 minutes. Too long. He makes his decision. Parker's truck pulls away from the curb. Alexander follows, maintaining distance, windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the deluge. They drive for 20 minutes, leaving the city behind, street lights giving way to rural darkness broken only by occasional lightning. The truck turns onto a gravel access road leading toward an industrial area. Abandoned factories from the city's manufacturing era, now skeletal remains on the landscape. Alexander kills his headlights, maintaining visual contact by lightning flashes. Parker stops outside a decaying warehouse with broken windows like empty eye sockets. He backs his truck to a loading dock, then disappears inside, returning with a dolly. The trunk is transferred with effort, vanishing into the building's darkness. Alexander's phone vibrates, Suarez returning his call. He answers in a whisper. He's at the old Westmont factory on County Line Road. He brought something inside a trunk that could hold Emma. SWAT is mobilizing, but they're 20 minutes out. Her voice is tied with controlled urgency. Do not engage, Alexander. Parker may be armed. What if she's in that trunk? She could suffocate. We don't know she's in there. And if something happens to you, how does that help her? Logic against instinct. Procedure against moral imperative. Alexander ends the call without promising anything. From his trunk, he retrieves a flashlight and the gun he's carried since Catherine's jewelry was stolen during a home invasion 3 years ago. He's never fired it outside the shooting range, but its weight offers cold comfort against the fear coiling in his gut. The warehouse door groans slightly as he slips inside. Water drips from rusted pipes, the sound masking his footsteps on the concrete floor. A faint light glows from what must have been a foreman's office at the back. Alexander moves toward it, guided by instinct and dread. Through a grimy window, he sees Parker kneeling beside the trunk, fumbling with its latch. The container shifts slightly, and Parker slams his fist against its lid. Be still. Parker's voice carries in the empty space. I told you to be quiet. The trunk moves again, something inside is fighting. Emma. Alexander's hand tightens on the gun as the world narrows to this single moment of clarity. All doubt evaporates. The child is alive, and every second counts. Parker stands, retrieving something from his pocket. A lighter flares in the darkness. He moves toward a pile of debris in the corner where rags and old papers are gathered. Shoulda done this 2 years ago, Parker mutters. Like your parents. Nobody asks questions after a fire. Just another tragic accident. The lighter touches paper. Flames lick upward, hungry for fuel. Alexander steps through the doorway, gun raised. Step away from the trunk, Parker. Frank whirls, face twisting from shock to rage. You. I should have known. The police are on their way. It's over. Parker's laugh is hollow. You think I'm going to prison? For what? Taking care of what my brother couldn't. For murder. Alexander's voice is steady even as his heart hammers against his ribs. You killed Emma's parents for the insurance money. Prove it. Parker edges toward a workbench where tools are scattered. You've got nothing. And in 10 minutes, you'll have even less when this place burns to the ground. The fire is spreading faster than Alexander anticipated, eating through the dry debris, smoke beginning to fill the room. From inside the trunk comes a muffled cry. Emma. Alexander calls. I'm here to help you. Parker lunges for the workbench, grabbing something metal that flashes in the firelight. A screwdriver or all. Should have minded your own business, rich boy. What happens next unfolds in terrible slow motion. Parker charges. Alexander's finger tightens on the trigger. The warehouse door crashes open behind them. Police, too late and just in time. And through it all, the sound of a child crying for help as smoke fills her prison. The hospital waiting room is a liminal space, sanitized, timeless, suspended between crisis and resolution. Alexander sits alone, elbows on knees, staring at his hands. They're still stained with soot despite scrubbing in the ER bathroom. His once immaculate suit reeks of smoke and carries a small, perfect burn hole near the cuff. Mr. Blackwood. He looks up to find a doctor in rumpled scrubs studying him with the weary compassion of someone who's seen too much. Emma Parker. Alexander stands. How is she? Stable. The doctor gestures to the chairs. She's suffering from smoke inhalation, dehydration, and multiple contusions in various stages of healing. The oldest appear to be weeks old. Alexander sits heavily. And mentally. That's harder to quantify. The doctor's expression softens. She's barely spoken since arriving. When the nurses tried to take blood, she had a panic attack. Classic trauma response. Will she recover? Children are resilient. But she'll need specialized care, therapy, stability. The doctor hesitates. Do you have any legal relationship to the child, Mr. Blackwood? No. The simple truth hangs between them. I was just there. Well, Detective Suarez listed you as an authorized visitor. Emma's been asking for the man who stopped the fire. I assume that's you. Alexander's throat tightens unexpectedly. Can I see her? Emma's room is dimly lit, the only sound the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the soft hiss of oxygen. She looks impossibly small in the adult-sized bed, dark hair fanned across the pillow, an oxygen mask covering half her face. Her arms rest above the blanket, and Alexander's stomach clenches at the visible map of abuse bruises in various shades of healing, a cast on her left wrist that the doctor hadn't mentioned. Her eyes flutter open as he approaches, widening slightly in recognition. Hey there, he says softly, pulling a chair beside her bed. You're safe now. She reaches up with her good hand, pulling the oxygen mask aside. Is Uncle Frank? Her voice is a rasp. He can't hurt you anymore. Alexander chooses his words carefully. The police have him. Emma's eyes fill with tears. He said nobody would believe me. About the hitting. About the fire. Alexander goes still. What about the fire, Emma? She glances toward the door, as if expecting her uncle to materialize. The night my parents died. I woke up and smelled smoke. My dad was yelling for me to stay in my room, that he was coming to get me. But then Uncle Frank came instead. He took me outside and told me to wait by his truck. Her voice drops to a whisper. But he went back inside. And then the doors wouldn't open when my dad tried them. Alexander feels a chill that has nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. You saw this? She nods, tears spilling over. I tried to tell the policeman after. Uncle Frank said I was confused from the smoke, that I had bad dreams. He said if I kept telling lies, they'd send me to a place where bad children go. She replaces the mask, taking a shuddering breath. The door opens and Detective Suarez enters, her expression grim but satisfied. Parker's in custody. No bail. She notices Emma's tearful state. Everything okay in here? Alexander steps into the hallway with her, keeping Emma in sight through the door window. She was awake when her parents died in the fire. She saw Parker trap them inside. Suarez's professional demeanor slips for just a moment. Jesus! Will her testimony be enough? Combined with what we found at his house? More than enough. She lowers her voice. There were journals. Records of the other children he's fostered. Detailed notes on how he disciplined them. And the fire investigator who changed the report. Already picked up for questioning. Folded in under 5 minutes. She studies Alexander's face. You look like hell. You should go home, get some rest. He glances back at Emma, now sleeping, small chest rising and falling beneath the hospital blanket. What happens to her now? System takes over. Foster placement, probably. She has no other relatives. Foster care. Alexander's voice goes flat. Like the system that gave those other children to Parker in the first place. Suarez sighs. It's imperfect, but it's broken. He straightens, decision crystallizing. I want to apply for emergency foster placement. Surprise registers on her face. You. No offense, but you're a single CEO with no child care experience. I have a 6-bedroom penthouse sitting empty. Resources for the best therapists, private security, whatever she needs. His voice gains intensity. My sister died in foster care when we were separated after our parents' death. Abuse that nobody caught until it was too late. I won't let that happen to Emma. Suarez studies him, reassessing. This isn't like adopting a rescue dog, Alexander. This is a traumatized child who needs stability, not a Billionaire'S impulse charity project. It's not charity. The words come from somewhere deeper than conscious thought. It's atonement. Before she can respond, a small voice calls from the room. Mr. Alexander. They turn to find Emma sitting up, oxygen mask pushed aside, eyes wide with renewed panic. Don't leave, she pleads, and Alexander is beside her bed in 3 strides. I'm not going anywhere, he promises, taking her small hand in his. Rest now. As she settles back against the pillows, her eyes growing heavy again, Suarez watches from the doorway. Something in her expression shifts. I'll make some calls, she says quietly. No promises. Alexander nods, not looking away from Emma's face, now peaceful in sleep. He doesn't realize it yet, but this moment, this vigil beside a stranger's hospital bed will be the dividing line in his life. Before Emma. After Emma. Everything is about to change. The abandoned Westmont factory looms against the storm-blackened sky, its broken windows gaping like hungry mouths. Alexander kills the engine of his Bentley, rain drumming a frantic rhythm on the roof as he stares through the windshield at the decaying structure. His hands grip the steering wheel until his knuckles blanch white. Frank Parker's pickup truck sits abandoned near the loading dock, its tailgate down, tire tracks cutting dark furrows through the mud. In the distance, lightning illuminates the skeletal remains of what was once the city's industrial heart. Alexander's phone vibrates. Detective Suarez. Where are you? She doesn't bother with pleasantries. Parker missed his court appearance. His ankle monitor was found cut off at his house. I know where he is. Alexander's voice is steady despite the fear coiling in his gut. A beat of silence. Tell me you're not at the factory. Someone had to follow him. God damn it, Alexander. We have officers en route. SWAT is mobilizing. Parker's not just an abuser anymore, he's a murder suspect with nothing to lose. Then they'd better hurry. He ends the call, silencing the phone before she can call back. From the glove compartment, he retrieves the 9mm handgun his security chief insisted he keep after Catherine's jewelry was stolen 3 years ago. He's fired it only at the range, but its weight is reassuring against the uncertainty churning inside him. The warehouse door groans as he pushes it open, rain and wind following him into the cavernous space. Water drips steadily through holes in the roof, forming shallow pools on the concrete floor. The air smells of rust, mildew, and something else, something chemical that makes the hair on his neck rise. Gasoline. A faint light pulses from what was once a foreman's office at the back of the building. Alexander moves toward it, guided more by instinct than logic. Each step echoes despite his caution, the sound swallowed by the vastness around him. Through a grimy window, he sees what he most feared, Emma, bound to a metal chair, her small face streaked with tears and dirt. Frank Parker paces before her, gesturing wildly, a gas can at his feet. It didn't have to be this way. Parker's voice carries in the empty space. If you'd just kept your mouth shut, we could have had a good life with that insurance money. But you had to go telling tales, didn't you? Please, Uncle Frank. Emma's voice is thin with terror. I won't tell any more. I promise. Too late for that. Parker upends the gas can, liquid splashing across the floor. Sometimes things just have to burn. Like your parents. Like this place. He pulls a lighter from his pocket. They'll think I tried to save you. Tragic, really. Alexander steps through the doorway, gun raised. That's enough, Parker. Frank whirls, face twisting from shock to rage. You. I should have known. The police are on their way. It's over. Parker's laugh is hollow, edged with desperation. You think I'm going to prison? For what? Taking care of what my brother couldn't. For murder. Your brother. His wife. All those other children you fostered over the years. Prove it. Parker edges toward a workbench where tools are scattered. You've got nothing. Emma saw you that night. She remembers you locking her parents inside while the house burned. Parker's eyes dart to the girl, then back to Alexander. She's confused. Traumatized. No court would take the word of a disturbed child. They'll take mine. Emma's voice is small but clear. I remember everything, Uncle Frank. The smell. The sounds. How you smiled when the windows exploded. Something shifts in Parker's expression, calculation giving way to something more primitive, more dangerous. Should have done this 2 years ago, he mutters, flicking the lighter. Flame dances in the darkness. Put that down. Alexander steps forward, gun steady despite his racing heart. Parker tosses the lighter. It arcs through the air in terrible slow motion, landing in the pool of gasoline. Blue flames explode outward, racing across the floor with supernatural speed. Alexander lunges for Emma, shielding her as fire engulfs the room. Heat sears his back, but he focuses only on freeing her from the ropes binding her to the chair. Hold on to me, he urges as the last restraint falls away. She clings to his neck, face buried against his shoulder, small body trembling violently. Through the flames, he sees Parker backing toward a rear exit, face split in a terrible grin. Burn like they did, he shouts over the fire's roar. Let's see how much that fancy suit protects you. The ceiling groans as ancient timbers begin to give way. Alexander knows they have seconds, not minutes, before the structure collapses. Holding Emma tightly, he charges through the narrowest part of the flames, feeling their hungry bite through his clothing. Behind him, something crashes, metal striking concrete. Parker screams, the sound abruptly cut short. The warehouse floor becomes an obstacle course of fallen debris and spreading fire. Alexander's lungs burn with each breath, but he keeps moving, guided by instinct and the faint glow of exit signs that somehow survived decades of abandonment. Almost there, he tells Emma, unsure if she can hear him over the inferno's roar. "Don't let go." They burst through a side door into the rain-swept night just as the building's roof collapses with a thunderous groan. The shock wave knocks them forward, and Alexander twists to take the impact as they fall, protecting Emma with his body. They lie in the mud, rain washing over them, gasping clean air as flames consume the factory behind them. In the distance, sirens wail help, coming too late and just in time. Emma raises her head from his chest, eyes reflecting the burning building. "He's still in there," she whispers. Alexander pulls her closer, shielding her view. "Don't look. It's over now." Police cruisers skid into the lot, officers emerging with weapons drawn. Suarez is among them, face tight with controlled fury as she spots Alexander and Emma on the ground. "Ambulance is 3 minutes out," she says, kneeling beside them. "Parker." Alexander glances toward the collapsing building, now fully engulfed. "Still inside." Suarez's expression doesn't change, but something in her eyes suggests she won't be ordering anyone inside for a rescue attempt. Emma's small fingers tighten on Alexander's sleeve. "Don't leave me," she pleads, voice barely audible above the chaos. "Never," he promises, the word carrying more weight than any contract he's ever signed. "You're safe now." As paramedics rush toward them, the factory's main wall collapses in a shower of sparks and flame. Something ends in that moment, a cycle of abuse, a chapter of darkness. And something begins, fragile as Emma's trust, powerful as Alexander's promise. The healing will be long and difficult, but tonight, in the rain and mud outside a burning factory, it starts with a single commitment: never again will this child face darkness alone. Fire consumes the abandoned factory with supernatural hunger, turning night to hellish day. Alexander shields Emma from the worst of the heat as they stagger toward the relative safety of the parking lot, his expensive suit smoldering in places, her small body trembling against his chest. Behind them, something crashes, metal striking concrete. Parker screams, the sound cutting through the inferno's roar before abruptly silencing. Alexander doesn't look back. "Almost there," he gasps, each breath scorching his lungs. "Don't let go." They burst through a side door into the rain-swept night just as the building's roof collapses with a thunderous groan. The shock wave propels them forward, and Alexander twists midair to absorb the impact as they fall, mud spattering around them. For several heartbeats, they lie still, rain washing over them like absolution. Emma's face is pressed against his chest, her small fingers clutching his ruined shirt with surprising strength. Is he?" Her voice trembles. Alexander tightens his embrace, turning her away from the burning structure. "Don't look back. It's over now." Police cruisers skid into the lot, emergency lights painting everything in pulsing red and blue. Officers emerge with weapons drawn, shouting orders that dissolve in the storm and the fire's roar. Suarez is among them, her face hard as granite until she spots Alexander and Emma on the ground. "Get a medic," she barks, holstering her weapon as she drops to her knees beside them. "Emma? Alexander? Can you hear me?" Emma raises her head, eyes huge in her soot-streaked face. "He tried to burn us," she whispers. "Like my parents." Suarez's expression softens fractionally. "You're safe now. Both of you." Parker's still inside, Alexander manages, each word an effort against the smoke in his lungs. "Trapped under something when the roof started to go." As if punctuating his statement, the factory's main wall collapses in a shower of sparks and thunderous noise. The assembled officers instinctively duck, but no one makes a move toward the inferno. Some calculations are made in silence, some decisions understood without orders. Paramedics rush forward with oxygen and blankets. One reaches for Emma, but she shrinks back, clinging tighter to Alexander. No. The panic in her voice cuts through the chaos. Don't take me. It's okay, Alexander soothes, sitting up despite the protest of scorched muscles. They're here to help. Don't leave me, she pleads, eyes wild with a fear deeper than the immediate danger. It's the fear of a child who's been passed between systems and people, none of whom kept her safe. I'm not going anywhere, he promises. We'll stay together. The paramedics exchange glances but adapt, draping thermal blankets around them both, administering oxygen while they remain connected. Alexander's back stings where flames kiss through his clothing, but he focuses only on the child in his arms, on keeping his breathing steady for her sake. Suarez crouches beside them, her voice pitched for their ears alone. Was it him? Did Parker start the fire? Emma nods, face half hidden against Alexander's chest. He said I had to burn. Like my parents. So no one would know. Know what, sweetheart? That he locked them in. That he took the insurance money. Her voice drops to a whisper. That he hurt the other children too. Suarez's expression doesn't change, but something in her eyes hardens. Did you see what happened to him inside? Alexander meets her gaze over Emma's head. Metal shelf came down. Then the roof. He couldn't have survived that. Good. The single word contains volumes, spoken not as an officer of the law but as a human being witnessing the end of something monstrous. Firefighters arrive, though their efforts focus on containing the blaze rather than saving the building. It's already a total loss, decades of neglect and Parker's accelerant ensuring nothing will remain but ash and twisted metal. In the back of an ambulance, doors open to the storm, Alexander sits with Emma as paramedics clean and dress his burns. Her oxygen mask is fogged with steady breathing, eyes heavy with exhaustion but refusing to close, as if afraid he'll disappear if she sleeps. What happens now, she asks, the child's eternal question in the face of upheaval. Alexander looks to Suarez, who hovers nearby, radio crackling with updates. Tonight, the hospital, the detective answers gently. You both need to be checked properly. And after? Emma's voice wavers. The unspoken question hangs in the rain-soaked air, who will claim her now? What system awaits? Which stranger's home? I submitted emergency foster placement papers this morning, Alexander says quietly. If that's something you might want. Emma's eyes widen, hope and fear warring in their depths. You want me to stay with you? Only if you want to. He keeps his voice deliberately casual despite the sudden tightness in his chest. My house is pretty big. Too big, really, for just one person. There would be interviews, Suarez cautions. Home studies. It's not automatic, even for someone with your resources. I understand. Emma looks between them, processing this adult conversation about her fate. Would I have my own room? The simplicity of the question catches Alexander off guard. Not will I be safe, not will you hurt me, but this modest hope for personal space, perhaps the first she's had since her parents died. Absolutely, he answers, throat tight with unexpected emotion. Any room you want. And we can paint it however you like. She considers this with grave seriousness. Purple, she decides finally. with stars on the ceiling. Purple with stars it is. As the ambulance doors finally close and they pull away from the burning factory, Emma's small hand finds his, fingers intertwining with solemn purpose. No words are spoken, but a covenant is formed in that simple touch, a promise of protection, of presence, of possibility. Behind them, the factory burns to its foundations, consuming the last physical traces of Frank Parker and the darkness he created. Ahead lies uncertainty, legal hurdles, healing, the complicated process of building trust from the ashes of betrayal. But tonight, as the ambulance carries them toward whatever comes next, there is this: two souls who entered the fire as strangers emerge bound by something beyond blood or legal paperwork. Sometimes family is found in the most unexpected places, forged in the crucible of shared survival. 3 months later, Blackwood adopts fire survivor, billionaire CEO makes good on promise to orphaned girl. Alexander folds the newspaper with a sigh, adding it to the growing stack on his kitchen counter. The headline is the tamest of the bunch. Others speculate about his motives, romanticize the story, or cynically question whether the adoption is a publicity stunt for Blackwood Enterprises. They're still running those stories. Maria Suarez asks, accepting the coffee he offers. Now a regular visitor, the detective has shed her initial skepticism about his intentions toward Emma. Apparently, a billionaire adopting an abuse survivor makes better copy than corporate tax strategies. He glances toward the hallway. She saw one yesterday. Asked if I was only keeping her because it makes me famous. What did you tell her? The truth. That I'm keeping her because we belong together. He shrugs, a gesture that doesn't quite disguise the emotion beneath. And that I'm considering buying the newspapers just to fire their editors. Suarez laughs. You're going to spoil that kid rotten. Probably. He doesn't apologize for it. How's the investigation progressing? Her expression sobers. Parker's remains were positively identified last week. The Me confirmed what we suspected: the factory collapse killed him instantly. Good. The single word carries no remorse. We've reopened investigations into the other children he fostered. 2 families have already filed civil suits against the county for placing their relatives with him despite previous reports. She hesitates. The fire inspector who falsified the report on Emma's parents' house took a plea deal. He's cooperating, naming names all through the department. It's going to get ugly. It needs to. Alexander's jaw tightens. How many other children were failed because people looked the other way? A soft sound from the hallway interrupts them. Emma stands in the doorway, barefoot in purple pajamas despite the late morning hour. Her therapist has emphasized the importance of flexible routines, allowing her to sleep when her frequent nightmares permit. Detective Maria. The girl's face brightens. She's still too thin, her recovery a marathon rather than a sprint, but the difference from the terrified child in the hospital is striking. Hey, kiddo. Suarez's professional demeanor softens. How's the new room? Come see. Emma tugs her hand, eager to show off the bedroom that has been transformed according to her exact specifications: purple walls, ceiling painted with constellations that glow in the dark, and a window seat overlooking the city. Alexander watches them go, smiling faintly. These moments of childlike enthusiasm remain precious, hard-won islands in the ongoing sea of Emma's recovery. Her therapist calls it post-traumatic growth, the capacity to find joy despite darkness, to build something new from devastation. Not all days are good. There are still nights when screams echo through the penthouse, when Emma wakes convinced the walls are burning around her. Mornings when Alexander finds her huddled in a closet, seeking the confined spaces that once felt safer than open rooms where adults could reach her. But there are also trips for ice cream, piano lessons that Emma requested herself, family movie nights where she falls asleep against his side, trusting him to carry her to bed. The trust is the miracle. The willingness to believe, after everything, that an adult might actually protect rather than harm. His phone rings the office. He lets it go to voicemail. Since the adoption, he's stepped back from day-to-day operations at Blackwood Enterprises, appointing a CEO while remaining chairman. The corporate world buzzed with speculation about this apparent career suicide, until he announced the creation of the Blackwood Children's Foundation, dedicated to reforming foster care and supporting abuse survivors. Now they call him a visionary philanthropist. The irony isn't lost on him. Emma and Suarez return, the detective checking her watch reluctantly. I should get going. Those depositions won't take themselves. After she leaves, Emma settles at the kitchen counter with a bowl of cereal, watching Alexander over the rim as she eats. These quiet observations are her way of studying him, assessing safety, learning what normal looks like in this new reality. Are you mad? She asks suddenly. About what? The newspaper. I heard you talking. They said you only wanted me because it makes you look good. Alexander sits beside her, choosing his words carefully. People sometimes make up stories when they don't understand something. They can't imagine why someone would just love someone else without getting something in return. But you do get something, she says with childlike certainty. You get me. The simplicity of the statement, its perfect, devastating truth catches him off guard. Yes, he manages finally. I get you. And that's worth more than everything else I have. Emma nods, apparently satisfied, and returns to her cereal. After a moment, she adds, Ms. Abernathy says I can go back to regular school next month. If I want. Alexander recognizes the mixture of hope and fear in her voice. The tutor has been a gentle transition, but real school means facing other children, explaining her story, risking rejection. Whatever you decide is fine, he assures her. We can try it, and if it doesn't work out, we'll find another way. She considers this, spoon hovering midair. Will you come with me? The first day. Absolutely. Front door to classroom, right by your side. This promise, so small against the backdrop of legal battles, media scrutiny, and the long shadow of trauma, seems to comfort her most. Not his wealth or influence, but simply the pledge of presence. Outside the penthouse windows, the city continues its relentless pace. Headlines will fade, public interest will wane, new scandals will replace theirs in the collective consciousness. But within these walls, something rare and precious is being built day by day, moment by moment, a family fashioned from shared scars, bound by choice rather than obligation. It's not easy. It's not perfect. But as Emma reaches across the counter to squeeze his hand, a gesture of affection that once would have been unthinkable, Alexander knows with bone-deep certainty that it's worth every headline, every challenge, every moment of doubt. This, finally, is what wealth is for. Not acquisition or status, but the power to protect what matters most. When Alexander Blackwood stepped out of his car that rainy night, he wasn't looking to become a hero or a father. He was simply a man who refused to look away when confronted with another's suffering. His journey reminds us that sometimes the most important crossroads in our lives aren't marked by grand signs or obvious choices, but by quiet moments when we decide whether to engage with the pain around us or shield ourselves in comfortable indifference. Emma's story teaches us something equally profound, that the human capacity for resilience cannot be underestimated. Children who have known the worst of humanity can still learn to trust, to laugh, to believe in better days. Their healing isn't linear or simple, but it's possible when met with consistent care and unwavering presence. The systems meant to protect our most vulnerable citizens often fail spectacularly, buckle under corruption, or simply miss the signals hidden in plain sight. But systems are made of people, and people can choose differently. Detective Suarez chose to listen. Miss Carter chose to report her concerns despite previous dismissals. Alexander chose to follow his instincts rather than convention. Perhaps the greatest lesson lies in understanding that family isn't always determined by blood. Sometimes it's forged in crisis, recognized in the moment we realize another person's well-being matters more than our comfort, our convenience, or even our safety. Family is found in the promises we keep when keeping them gets difficult. In the end, what saved Emma wasn't wealth or privilege, but the simple, revolutionary act of being seen, truly seen by someone who refused to look away. If this story moved you today, remember there are thousands of children like Emma in your community, children whose voices go unheard behind suburban facades and perfect family pictures. Their rescuers don't need billions, they need only the courage to pay attention. Learn the warning signs of child abuse. Notice when a child suddenly withdraws, when bruises are explained away too smoothly, when fear replaces curiosity in young eyes. If something feels wrong, report it. You might be the only person who does. Support organizations working to reform foster care systems. Volunteer as a court-appointed special advocate. Consider becoming a foster parent yourself, or supporting those who do with respite care, donations, or simply recognition of the vital work they perform. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that matter, stories that might change a life simply by raising awareness. Leave a comment sharing what this narrative awakened in you, perhaps your own experience with the system, or a moment when someone saw you when you needed it most. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be the person who notices. Be the one who acts. Be the Alexander to someone's Emma. Because sometimes salvation doesn't arrive in flashing lights and sirens, but in the quiet decision of one person who chooses to get involved when every instinct says to drive away. Like, share, subscribe. But most importantly, pay attention. The child beside you in line, behind you at church, across from you on the bus might be silently screaming for someone, anyone, to see what's happening behind closed doors. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply refusing to look away.